All right. Our next question, Jim, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Charisse in Michigan City, Indiana. I recently read an article in the New York Post where Cody Rhodes said that he would be interested in a crossover event with WWE. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Vince would ever in a million years allow this to happen? I also have a link to the interview in the Post if you wanted any actual quotes.
Well, go ahead and read me some. But, well, of course. Of course they would like a crossover with the WWE. That would be the ultimate validation. The only outside promotions that WWE has ever even recognized was Smoky Mountain, because we were absolutely on purpose no competition. WCW after they bought them and took them over. But a currently running national promotion that WWE would do a cross promotion with, that would be... go ahead and give Cody a golden ticket to fucking Willy Wonka's place while he's at it. Who wouldn't love that?
I'm looking at this interview. It appears to be centered around the match with with Red Velvet against Shaq and Jade Cargill.
Jesus Christ.
And I will say, before I read this, I haven't read this yet, Cody has a tendency to try to sound a lot smarter than he is. There's a reason why I call him the wrestling sage. It's not that he's a wrestling sage. It's that he really tries hard to be the wrestling sage. But let's, this appears to be the question. The question from the New York Post. Dynamite 2 weeks ago had wrestlers from the NWA, Impact, and New Japan. Is there an end goal in your guys' minds of how you want this idea of talent sharing to affect wrestling? It feels like a throwback to the territory days. I'm guessing the interviewer did not know too much about the territory days.
Not too much about the territory days.
Here's Cody's answer. I think of All In itself. All In is a show that Ring of Honor helped us with, that Matt, Nick, and myself did all the work for outside of that initial production element. And the reason it was important that the three of us do it is we were able to let all these old rules go away. There's a very dangerous and powerful precedent to set if you literally do put down all the bridges and you do put down all the doors. Again, this is all hypothetical.
What is he fucking saying?
Again, the wrestling sage. Again, this is all hypothetical, but there is no reason AEW couldn't work with New Japan. We're aware of the world outside. Bullet Club is a big part of our blood in AEW. So there's no reason we couldn't work with New Japan. There's no reason Jacob Fatu couldn't take a step over from MLW and stand across the ring from me. There's no reason that there couldn't be a potential WWE crossover one day. And I don't mean that's a thing that's been discussed or happening, but none of those rules that exist for other places exist for us. Wrestling is really this universal industry. The territory reference that you made, that's fairly accurate. But the part of it that's most accurate was there was a genuine trust. Eddie Graham and Vince Sr., they traded people all the time and made prolific pieces of business out of it. And they did it in a way where they would introduce these characters in New York. And the next thing you know, they introduce these characters in Florida. And it keeps things fresh because above all, Wednesday Night War or not, the main thing we have to do for the fans,
is put a period on it.
For the rest of this run, and I want this company to be around forever, is keep it fresh. It can't get stale. Our doors are open if the business is right, if the moment is right, if the time is right. Our bridges are down. I'll be the one curmudgeon AEW guy to make sure it's all good.
Oh boy. It's not the same as the territories. Yes, of course, Vince and Eddie Graham traded talent. Everybody else did. They were not all being seen at the same time. This is what they're missing. You'd use fucking a guy in Florida for 6 months, then he'd go to New York for 6 months or whatever. This is not the same type of talent exchange as the territories because this is a national TV show. Having said that, There is no reason why AEW can't work with New Japan or Impact or what big. Let's face it, New Japan is a niche product that's available to a certain diehard audience in this country that seeks it out, and nobody else knows it's around. That's just a fact. And so, of course, New Japan wants to work with a company that has a national TV show on in America. They've been working with Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor had the next best thing with their syndication, but this is in the Japanese minds, even though I still say Ring of Honor with all that syndication and all those broadcast outlets, cumulatively, about the same number of people watch Ring of Honor every week as watches AEW all at one time. Anyway, of course, AEW wants to work with or doesn't mind working with Impact because that's a fucking blessing for Impact because they're the next thing to Invisible as relates to a promotion with television because nobody watches it and they've been through so many different periods of shit that they're never really going to recover. They're going to be that thing that Anthem keeps alive for programming, much like maybe Sinclair's doing with Ring of Honor. All these other people that AEW are working with, there is a benefit to those companies really more than AEW. AEW gets the talent, but they don't know what to do with it. But there would be absolutely no benefit whatsoever. I can't even say that line with a straight face. Let's say it like this. If somebody came to Vince McMahon and suggested that they do a cross promotion with AEW, he would fire them and kick them in the balls, I'm not sure in which order, and rightfully so. Because that's like the brand name, the established company, validating the existence of the upstart outlaw wannabes. Even if AEW was a good show, they wouldn't do it. Especially if AEW was a good show, they wouldn't do it. They'd laugh at it now because the idea of WWE working with them is insane on a business standpoint and to not give, this amateur hour credibility. But if it was a really good show, they wouldn't laugh at it. They just wouldn't do it for more of the reason that it would be a really good show and they wouldn't want to expose guys with a better show or better talent or whatever on their air. Fortunately for them, they don't have to worry about that because AEW hadn't hit the part where it's a good show yet.
There aren't too many examples of Eddie Graham and Vince Sr. sharing talent at the same time. I mean, Bob Backlund was working TV tapings only for a year building up to his title run when he was working Florida.
Yeah, well, you did. You went from one territory to another full time.
When you finished up.
Yeah, unless you were a major star, like, that was flown from one place to another, the Ernie Ladds of the day at the time or whatever, or Dusty then later on, or, a handful of guys that would make shots in multiple territories. But yes, they did trade talent, but it wasn't like most of the guys were involved in multiple territories and multiple things at the same time. The way that Jerry Jarrett in Memphis got a chance to get so many big names from the AWA for a period of time when he was working with Vern was that Jarrett's major towns ran on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Memphis, Louisville, Evansville, Lexington, Kentucky. And Vern's big towns all ran on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So a lot of times he didn't even run those days of the week. Vern ran a light schedule. But anyway, the point is, yes, Cody's saying that. He knows that there's not a goddamn snowball's chance in hell that Vince will ever work with AEW in any kind of co-promotion. And nobody will make that happen, ever.
He tries so hard to sound smarter than he is.
That was a long way around your elbow to get to your wrist, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
What he said.
I'm looking through other quotes. I won't do them now because it's all about the Shaq and Jade Cargill match, but...
Well, and here's another thing.
This interview.
They're talking about it like it's what it is. It's a thing we set up to get publicity, and that's the way that they've referred to it ever since. And did you hear, by the way, Tony Schiavone, my old friend Tony of all people, after they powerbombed Sting, the 62-year-old man with spinal stenosis, on live television last week, Tony does an after-show podcast and reveals to the fans, oh, it's okay, Sting was fine afterwards. It was his idea that he take that.
No.
I swear to God.
Oh, no.
Multiple people have reported that. Tony said, no, Sting said he's fine, and it was his idea to take it. They've all just either given up or lost the plot or don't care or just figure, well, it's a different time now, and nobody has any. And Tony knows if he was working for Crockett and did that television and then went to the Charlotte Observer and said, well, it's okay, it was Dusty's idea to have his leg broken by the Horseman and he's fine now, he would have been fired immediately. He would have been fired on the phone and told not to come to the office because guys would be looking for him. But 30 years later, it's like he doesn't even. And yes, I expose everybody's business because it's all a big fucking joke now, and I want to make sure everybody knows I know it. But if you're working for the company and you're putting yourself on television and attempting to call that shit and get it in any way over, and then you immediately fucking counteract that as soon as you get off the air, what the fuck? No wonder nobody cares, because nobody cares.
You know, you got to think with this kind of brain trust in AEW that maybe they should look for some help when it comes to managing their business.
I think they need business management advice. I think they need business management help. I think they need somebody to manage their goddamn business. And I know exactly who. Netsuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. Folks, if you are in the business of buying or selling clouds or anything else for that matter, if you're grossing $1 million a year or hundreds of millions, and remember, if you're grossing hundreds of millions of dollars a year, please contact me by email at, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, right now, you can stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the information you need when you need it. If you're a business owner, you know that running a business is tough, but don't make it harder on yourself than necessary. Put away the spreadsheets and all the old software that you've outgrown because NetSuite gives you visibility and control. I like to be able to see things and control them. Over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, everything you need all in one place instantaneously. Join the over 24,000 companies using NetSuite right now. And if you will go to NetSuite, NetSuite.com/JCE and take a free product tour, netsuite.com/JCE, schedule the free product tour right now. They'll show you how they'll benefit your business, and then all of you can come back and tell me, netsuite.com/JCE.